Good evening, all. I want to join with Paul Volcker in commending the public and private qualities and spirit of Dick Ravitch. Although I will say this about his Paul Volcker speech, it brings to mind the difference between an optimist and a pessimist. An optimist thinks this is the best of all possible worlds, and a pessimist fears he may be right. Dick Ravitch and I have been friends for somewhere over 40 years. Just to give you an idea of how long ago it was, we were just reminiscing before about an incident when Dick and his son Michael came to Boston, and I picked them up at the airport. And we were driving, and I was, for some reason or another, one of the few people in Boston who had something called a telephone in his car. This was quite a rare event. And Michael looked at that and said, what is that? And Dick said, well, it's a telephone. I know it's rare to see a telephone in a car, but there it is. And Michael had his mind on another subject. He said, is there a bathroom in the car? Now, I will just mention a few things about Dick. One of them is, one of the facts is that he was born on July 7th. Now, I don't bring that up to focus on his age, although I'll get to that. But I emphasize it only because it happens to be the birthday of another major contributor to the public good, and my 13-year-old daughter. So I thought I would just mention that because I like to think about her as well as Dick Ravitch. I did know Dick when he was young, and then, of course, when he was middle-aged. That, of course, is when his age began to show around his middle. Now, for Dick Ravitch is never old. For him, old is at least 15 years from now. And it's a wonderful quality to be able to share in when you're with him, because he just has so many plans, so many ideas, and so much commitment to doing things. Now, of course, in the private sector, his activities were initially and primarily focused on residential development. I happened to be involved in commercial development. But he was responsible in one form or another for over 40,000 units of affordable housing in New York, Washington, Puerto Rico, and many other locations. And he demonstrated in that really an infinite patience with many of his residential tenants, which I admired greatly. I remember once when one of his tenants told him that he wanted to live in a more expensive apartment. Dick accommodated him by raising his rent. He also taught me how to resolve complicated and difficult negotiations, and I will do this by telling a story that he once shared with me. This was about a man who went duck hunting and, on a rather gloomy day in the high grass and the high brush, and he saw nothing for virtually the entire day. Late in the day, a covey of ducks flew up really pretty much out of his normal range. But he said, what the heck, he took a shot. By the way, hit the duck, and the duck went fluttering down, hit the roof of a barn, and fell to the ground. The hunter goes through the high brush and the high grass, and he's reaching over to pick up the duck when he hears a voice saying, what are you doing here? Looks up, and there's this huge farmer standing there. He said, I didn't mean to disturb you, sir. He says, this happens to be a duck that I shot. You probably didn't see me because I was pretty far away. It's a gloomy day. Farmer says, are you familiar with farmer's law? He said, no. What's farmer's law? Farmer's law here is everything that is on the farmer's land belongs to the farmer. This duck is on my land, duck belongs to me. And he said, what are you talking about? It's a convention all around the world. If you shoot something, you can just pick it up. I don't want to disturb anything that you're involved with. You have a big fight, and finally the farmer says, I'll tell you what, we'll resolve this according to farmer's justice, if you would like. He says, what's farmer's justice? He says, well, he says, frankly, I kick you in the crotch, you kick me in the crotch, I kick you in the crotch, whoever lasts the longest keeps the duck. The man is so upset, he says, okay, we'll do it. Farmer kicks him in the crotch, the man falls to the ground writhing in pain. 5 minutes later, he's finally able to get up. He says to the farmer, he says, now it's my turn. The farmer says, you keep the duck. Now, very early on, as you know, Dick got involved in a lot of public policy. He's always been committed not only to his own private interests, but to the public welfare. In 1975, he became chairman of New York's Urban Development Corporation, appointed by Governor Carey, which had become insolvent. and thus put at risk the first municipal bankruptcy since the 1930s. I actually did a little work with him on that and watched with great admiration when he designed the first municipal bailout plan that ultimately restored the state's fiscal responsibility. Later in 1975 and subsequently, Dick Ravitch also assisted New York City and state officials in resolving the city defaults. And then in 1979, he was appointed chairman and CEO of the Metropolitan Transit Authority, New York's regional urban suburban transportation system. He did terrific work, not just on the long-term financing of the MTA, but also on its capital plan and a budget that dramatically upgraded the physical aspects of this critical public facility. That is when he discovered that for every action, there is an equal and opposite government program, and for which the bills to be paid travel through the mail at twice the speed of the checks to pay them. Now, he once described the experience in public life in the following way. He said that the experience that he received enabled him to recognize a mistake when he made it again. So I thought that was a good lesson to get. In the private sector, he had a whole range of activities. I mean, he recapitalized the Bowery Savings Bank, became president of the Player Relations Committee for the owners of the Major League Baseball to advise them on the creation of a revenue sharing plan and a salary proposal for the players. Went on to create the Millennial Housing Committee, a serious effort to rethink and meet the nation's affordable housing challenges. And of course, he's now serving as the lieutenant governor. Now, I wondered in my mind how I could summarize his lifelong commitment to public policy and public service. I've tried to summarize it in this way. I think it's fair to say he would love to change the world. He just couldn't find a big enough diaper. He is now receiving yet another award, one that is well-deserved, and it brings to mind an exchange that famously goes back to the days of ancient Greece. One of the most prominent citizens of a major city was asked if he was concerned that he was not honored as they did in those days by a statue of himself in the public square. His response would be relevant to tonight's celebration and appropriate to our times. I would rather, he said, that there not be a statue to honor me and have the citizens ask, why not? Then have a statue and have the citizens ask, why? I think we all join in this evening to congratulate Dick Ravitch on an honor well received and well earned.